spirit of 1.8 million West Virginians wills you to victory. Other places have pro teams, but in this state, the Mountaineers are a way of life.
When I competed and wore that number, I competed for the state and for the people, not just for the university.
Now, let's roll out the carpet and bring on the Mountaineers.
That's not a spree.
Yes! Alexander. Robinson comes forward. It's a dunk right at his pin. Send it in, Joe. Butler into the lane, into traffic. It goes again. West Virginia has won its first Big East championship.
So long, Big Blue. Hello, Golden Blue. The West Virginia Mountaineers are going to the Final Four.
Oh, man. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? That was a heartbreaker for sure. Hell of a game, at least. I mean, West Virginia, they battled to the end, despite foul trouble, despite questionable review call. I know that's going to be a subject that comes up. That I don't think that factored in. West Virginia still had a chance at the end. This was just a great basketball game against two teams that I thought, were very evenly matched. And I think that showed here in this one. Unfortunately, West Virginia couldn't come out on the winning side. Kedrian Johnson had an amazing game, 27 points, really carried West Virginia a lot. I believe he was playing in his home state, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, excellent game, 27 points. Nearly had 30 at the end there. Could have given West Virginia the win as they were down 2 and had a shot at the final buzzer there, and reminiscent of Gordon Hayward for Butler in that national championship game against Duke. It nearly went in but couldn't quite get it to go. I know this one sucks to do a live post-game reaction following such a heartbreaking defeat, and it's kind of one of those situations where you ask the old question of would you rather lose by a blowout or battle and lose close like this right at the very end. It really just, it sucks the life out of you almost when you lose right there at the very last second like this. So I'll try, I guess, not to get too emotional. You guys drop whatever feelings you have down in the comments in the chat there. We'll talk about it as we go throughout here. I know I'll get more in depth on the game stats and stuff itself in the CRW Hoops podcast episode I'll release here in the near future following this one, which will be a recap of West Virginia's performance in this game in the tournament and talk a little bit about the season as a whole probably as well. But as it stands right now, guys, just let me know how you're feeling. Kenny, I appreciate it, man. Always coming in consistently and everything. Same with you. I see you in there too, Luke Bart. I know I got the same feelings as you. Dang it, man. And Kenny says we didn't play to our potential. I know it's at times we did. And I think that's the troublesome thing with this team throughout this season had been at times they played really great basketball, but they just were not consistent at any point really throughout the season. And then in this game that reared its head, I think a lot. West Virginia started the game on that huge run. They got up, 16-9 or something like that, I think. And then Maryland answered, made it a 2-point game at the half. Second half started off about the same way. West Virginia started off, I think, on a 13-0 run or a 16-0 run. Maryland battled back, and then it was a battle down the stretch there. And unfortunately, West Virginia, came out on the wrong end of some things and couldn't get it done there when it mattered most down the home stretch. I don't know, man. There's a lot to talk about with this game, I think. I don't know what the issue was with Eric Stevenson in the second half. Just from the outside looking in, I don't know why he didn't play as much as he did in that first part of the second half. So I'm not, judging Bob Huggins' decision by any means, but I think just from the outside looking in, that might have hurt West Virginia a little bit, especially once West Virginia lost Emmett Matthews as well. I know he tried to come back and play in that final 90 seconds or so, but without having Eric Stevenson throughout that first part of the first half. And I know that's been something they've done a lot throughout this season. It was, take him out, give him out for an extended period, and then he comes back in and plays a little bit better. But typically that's been something they've done in the first half of games, and then, bring him back in for the final, 4 to 8 minutes of the first half, and then he's doing that. Instead, this time they benched him pretty much the whole entire start of the second half until I think about 8 minutes left or so, or something like that. And I understand, Bob Huggins has been known to do that, but I think, I don't know. I got mixed feelings about it. It's Eric Stevenson's last game. I know he's in the doghouse, but we're in foul trouble. We're struggling to score. Maryland's, making runs, and, it is what it is at this point. I don't think, like I said, you can't really point at any one thing in this game and say that specifically decided the game, whether it be a bad review call, whether it be a foul call or a foul no call, or, on either team's side, I'm thinking, because it really did come down to the last shot. Both teams had a great chance at it. So, it's just one of those heartbreaking games, man, that, couldn't get the ball to bounce your way. I think that's the sad part is kind of this game is almost a microcosm of West Virginia's season, because it showed just how good they can be, but then also showed, how they lacked consistency and had that lapse at times. They did that within this game, and that's just kind of been the story of this team throughout the season. If you could have ever got this team at any period playing the way they started at the beginning of this first half of this game and the beginning of the second half of this game, you would have really had a team that was, cooking with gas throughout this season. And I think they know that at times. They've even, spoken about they could have had a higher seed in the tournament. They felt like they could have won 5 or 6 more games if they could have just found out a way to win late. We thought here in the latter portion of the season they had found a way to win those games late. And, unfortunately, this time they just weren't able to get it done. And it sucks, man. It does. It's a heartbreaker. I hate to lose like that. And I would have absolutely loved for Keedy to make that last shot, man. I was hoping and praying that thing was going in. It looked all right, but like they said, Young made just enough defense to where he kind of had to go left a little bit. If he would have been able to step straight into it, I think he would have had a great chance of making that shot. But appreciate everybody that's in here. I won't stay with you guys too long. I know you guys are probably emotional as I am, heartbroken as well, to see West Virginia's season in that way when we know we have a team that's talented and looks like they can play with anybody. But, it just way it falls sometimes, right? It's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say, I guess. But appreciate everyone that's in here live. If you are in here, please drop a like on the video. It really helps us. Video's performance helps future videos performances here on the channel as well. And if you're a WVU fan, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Helps us, helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. Like I said, I won't stay with you too long. Emotional game for one. I know people are probably kind of checked out, maybe not even want to talk about it, and I understand that as well. As I was debating, man, do I really want to do a live stream reaction after that one? And part of me didn't, but I was like, I'll go ahead with it and get some feelings out, and this will kind of be more of, like I said, an instant reaction, probably a little bit more emotional than the next CRW Hoops podcast episode, where I'll kind of dive in on the numbers and look at it, a little bit more in depth. On this one, I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts, my instant reaction, initial thoughts from the game, and get your alls as well, and just kind of have a discussion with you guys about your thoughts on the game as a whole. And I guess in general, we can talk about West Virginia's season a little bit now that we know that this will be the end of the 2022-2023 West Virginia men's basketball season, and a bit of a mixed bag, I guess you could say, but happy to see West Virginia play in the NCAA tournament again. It was great to be able to, put them into the bracket. Didn't fall the way we wanted, but I think they're on the right track, and hopefully Bob Huggins has got this transfer portal thing figured out now and is going to build an awesome team for next season that'll make an even deeper run. But glad to see us back in the tournament. It was a hell of a game for sure. So hopefully, great start to the tournament at least. I know some people, when West Virginia's not in it, they kind of feel not as interested in the tournament. I hope that West Virginia losing this one in a heartbreaker and not coming out on top doesn't affect people's interest in the rest of the tournament, because I think this field's really wide open this year, and it could be a lot of interesting close games, just like the one we saw between West Virginia and Maryland. So, like I said, I'm not going to stay with you guys too long, because I'm interested in watching a lot of those tournament games throughout the day, as I'm sure you guys are. But what are your thoughts in here? Kenny says that had been the same story all year. Yeah, unfortunately it had, Kenny. And even throughout the game, I was messaging my friend Mikey, and I told him, West Virginia was up big in the first half. They were playing great defense. And I said, but I'm not expecting, it to stay this way the entire half, and definitely not the entire game. I was waiting on the run from the opposing team. And I think Maryland, from what their coaches said and stuff, is a team that has started slow at times throughout this season. He's had to kind of call a stop the bleeding timeout, and then Maryland go on a run and get back in it. He even mentioned that in his halftime interview. And they did that not only in the first half, but like I said, they did it in the second half as well. West Virginia started the second half on a 13-0 run or 16-0 run. Keedy Johnson had at least 13 of those points, I believe. Like I said, amazing performance from him. I think that's one thing I don't want to fail to mention here in an emotional game, that has a heartbreaker for us throughout Mountaineer Nation, is that Keedy Johnson in his final year as a Mountaineer really played some great basketball. We knew that he was a great defender throughout most of his Mountaineer career, but here in his final season, he really helped the Mountaineers on offense a lot and was a weapon for them at times. And I think in the games where other teams had star guards, we saw him show up and play his best basketball. He did it against UAB and Jelly Walker, a lot of teams in the Big 12. He had over 20 points, a couple times this season. And then in this game, Jameer Young, a really good guard for Maryland, and Keedy Johnson showed up again as well. Like I said, 27 points. Wished he would have had 30, got that last one to go, but definitely want to shout him out, not only for his performance in this game, but I think, and I mentioned going throughout the season that he's really improved his offensive game and really helped West Virginia a ton this season. Hopefully Perez and Severio will be able to replace him at the point guard position. Luke says, Emmett Matthews with the shoulder hurt us for sure. Yeah, can't go without mentioning that as well. Emmett Matthews, reaching in on that, what looked like a legal screen there. I don't think they ended up calling that one. I'm not 100% sure. I know they went back and reviewed one, but got his arm in there, and I was a little bit worried about a collarbone or something, just where he was holding, but seemed like a shoulder. I don't know, if he was really able to come back, but I'm sure when it got down to the nitty gritty, 2 minutes left, there wasn't nothing stopping him from coming back, whether he should have been in there or not. Hopefully he's all right moving forward and can go on with his basketball career playing wherever he ends up. But yes, that definitely was a huge factor in this game. Excuse me, guys. Let me get a drink of coffee real quick. Throat's a little dry, but yeah, Luke, I 100% agree. I think that was a huge factor in this game, especially in the second half, where I thought it would be a game where West Virginia could maybe have an advantage because they were a little bit deeper than Maryland. If they could flip the script and get Maryland into foul trouble, because Maryland had West Virginia in foul trouble early in the first half. But unfortunately for West Virginia, their foul trouble mounted as well. And with the Emmett Matthews injury, West Virginia was really running low on big men. That hurt them a lot in this game. I think that's why Juju Reese for Maryland really made some plays down the stretch that really helped them be able to get a victory. And in West Virginia's case, they did get Maryland into foul trouble like I was hoping, but down the stretch, Maryland just had a little bit more firepower. They had Young in there for the final 2 minutes and stuff. And like I said, personally, just my personal opinion, not harping on Coach Huggins and not harping on any of the, coaching decisions in this game. I thought it was a great coached, game by both sides. Maryland, it was really a chess match going back and forth. Like I said, it was a game of runs, but personally, I would have liked to seen Eric Stevenson play a little bit more in the second half. I think he could have used it. Maybe would have got you over 70 points and been enough to lift you to a victory. But hindsight's 2020, and I get to say that from the outside looking in, Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So that wasn't the one they reviewed. Luke says they should have reviewed that one, not the later one. So it wasn't one after that they reviewed, and they didn't review the one with Emmett. Yeah, because it definitely looked like a moving screen to me too. So I wish they would have reviewed that one as well. Little bit suspect on the reviews today, I will say. Like I said, I'm not saying anything ended up affecting the end result of the game, but certainly looked like Jameer Young on that one play late there in the final minutes, falling down, just kind of lost the ball out of bounds. And I don't know how they can say they didn't have indisputable evidence when, it's clear on the replay. Even the announcer said it was clear. The replay official they brought in said it was clear that it looked like he threw it away. So I don't know. I don't really understand that, how it's not indisputable for them they're reviewing it. But like I said, I don't think that affected the outcome. West Virginia still had a chance there late, just couldn't make that final shot. But certainly a questionable job by the officials that were reviewing this game, I think. Whoever handles that, however that works. Eric says, well, was hoping for this win. Maryland going to get rolled by Bama. Yeah, I think so. I think so too. And unfortunately, I don't know how we would have fared against Bama either. I think that a lot of games in this tournament are going to be close, but I don't think Maryland has the depth, to compete with Bama. And with what Kedrian Johnson did today, I think that Brandon Miller of Alabama is going to have a really good game against Maryland. So, yeah, I agree. Maryland is probably going to get beaten pretty handily by Bama if I was making a prediction for that one. Angela says, so glad to see you calm. I know, Mom, it's rare. Usually I'd be through the roof after a loss like this. I was down for a second and everything, but trying to hit that Zen level now, in my old age. I am in my 30s now, so I guess I'm relaxed a little bit over time, but who knows, I guess it's a little bit easier to absorb when I kind of had a bad feeling about this when I seen Maryland was our 8-9 matchup, as I talked about in the last live stream and even a little bit in the episode 14. We just really matched evenly, and it was just going to be a battle of wills. And I think that's why you saw a game that was so close, towards the end of the half and towards the end of the game as well. Eric says, very bad call on the out of bounds. Maybe no difference, but maybe so. I mean, yeah, it's like I said, it's hard to say any one play or whatever or review call made a difference in this game because it's just where it came down to one possession. But in that same token, any one of those also can be made a case for to making a difference in the game. And it certainly was not a great call. It clearly was out of bounds on the Maryland guard for sure. I'll agree with that. Luke Bart did firm a win. I tried to go off and look, but it was over. I didn't see the end of that one yet. I know that last I seen Virginia was up by 3 with like 45 seconds left. The last time I saw the score in the top corner while I was watching WVU's game, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm excited to check out the rest of these games though throughout the day. Hopefully some more good ones because man, that was a great one right there between West Virginia and Maryland. I mean, shout out to Maryland, they battered down the stretch. Shout out to Mountaineers, battling down the stretch as well. I think it got to a point there in the second half. Maryland had a 4 or 5 point lead. West Virginia was losing big men. Emmett Matthews wasn't in the game, and they could have bowed down, and Maryland could have ran away with it. But West Virginia showed us something that they've shown us a lot throughout the season. If anything else, this team had a great resolve, very resilient, and battled back and made it a game all the way down to the final stretch. Like I said, very last shot there. Kedron Johnson, amazing game, but wish he would have had 30 points. Could have got that last one to fall. Would have been amazing and a great story to start March Madness, but still an amazing game to start March Madness at least. And I hope the rest throughout the day are just as good as that one. Yeah, the Emmett injury played a huge role in this game. And like I said, the main thing now that West Virginia's not advancing is I hope that he has enough time to recover moving forward, continuing with wherever he goes in his basketball career, because I think he can, probably make some money overseas or playing somewhere professionally for sure. So hopefully he's all right moving forward. Blake Green, what's going on, man? Good to see you in here. Appreciate it as always. Should have kept feeding Trey in the paint and have Keedy kept attacking the rim. Yeah, I know. That's, like I said, I haven't broken it down enough in the numbers wise to see if that holds up statistically with the way that I felt like watching the game, which was that I don't know if it was Maryland's defense or just West Virginia settling a little bit too much like we've unfortunately done at times throughout this season when I thought we've shot too many three-pointers when our best strength, I think, is attacking the rim, getting to the free throw line. And even in this game, like you said, I thought feeding the big men would have been a good recipe. It's not really this team's style at all, but we know that's kind of Bob Huggins' style in the past, his teams that he's been successful with. And I think Trey Mitchell was having a pretty decent game. And I think if Jimmy Bell wouldn't have gotten foul trouble, maybe you'd have been able to even feed him in the post some. I know he ended up with 0 points in this game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I agree. I think that would have been a good recipe because you got Young in foul trouble. But if you could have got Reese in foul trouble as well for Maryland, it would have made a huge difference in the game. I was, kind of hopeful in the second half that West Virginia would get Maryland into foul trouble because I thought West Virginia was a little deeper. But I think the injuries that West Virginia had going in the foul trouble of their own kind of made that advantage, more so even than West Virginia having the advantage being more deeper because West Virginia was not able to go that deep with the injuries and stuff that they had sustained, unfortunately. Kenny says, unfortunately, it does to him. He's not interested in the tournament now. I hate that, Kenny, man. I know. I feel you, man. I really do. I know a lot of people feel that way and stuff, but I think personally for me, just getting to see West Virginia in the tournament and getting to see them play at least is enough that it's not going to knock my interest out completely for the rest of the tournament. Now, sometimes when they're not in it, I do feel that way, but hopefully, my bracket's good enough to keep me interested the rest of the way. We'll see what happens, right? WV fan 23, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you back in here. Appreciate you as always. I know I haven't been live too often, trying to get back to it more often, though. It's going to be coming for sure. Spring football coming, so we'll be live at least once a week during that time. Got this one, of course, and then we're going to have some more Q&As and stuff throughout the football off season. But just wanted to get, kind of my instant reaction top of my head thoughts, I guess you could say, real stream of consciousness here in the live stream reaction to West Virginia's game here against Maryland, unfortunately falling in the round of 64 here to open the NCAA tournament. But CRW Hoops Podcast, episode 15. I'll go more in depth on the stats and stuff in general, but appreciate you chiming in, WV Fan 23. Everyone else that's in here, please drop your thoughts as well on this game for the Mountaineers and kind of the season in general, or even if you're in here watching on a playback, you can drop them in the comments as well, and I'll respond to you there in text form. But if you are in here live, drop us a like on the video or even on the playback. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and appreciate you guys chiming in and stuff. Just love the interaction in these live streams. WFan23 says Mountaineers blowing a 13-point lead. I know, man. That's the saddest part of it to me. Kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's kind of a microcosm of this season for West Virginia. They just haven't been consistent. Really, they've been really good at times and then really suspect at times. And I think you saw both sides of that in this game against Maryland, unfortunately, blowing a big lead not only in the first half, but a big lead in the second half as well. West Virginia getting off to that nice lead, like you said, 19-6, I think it was. Then Maryland battles back, takes a 32-30 lead at the second half. West Virginia comes out strong in the second half again. I think it was a 16-0 run, if I'm not mistaken. 13 of those by Keedy Johnson. But then down the stretch, Maryland does the same thing, battles right back in it. And unfortunately, it's happened too many times. West Virginia team throughout the season, and it reared its ugly head at the worst possible time when you really needed to have a great game on the stretch. If you could have just held on to that great start you had there in the second half, but just couldn't happen. And I think a lot of things played into it. Turning the ball over too much has been a problem for this West Virginia team. And then I think foul trouble really kind of hurt West Virginia's defense. When they had everybody in there healthy, they were playing great defense and, healthy and, out of foul trouble. But so I think both those two things really hurt West Virginia's defensive effort that we saw them have early in the first half, certainly, and then even early in the second half as well when they were able to play Jimmy Bell before he got in a lot of foul trouble, fouling out of the game. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm right there with you, WV Fan 23. Sucks to see that happen. Yet again this season, blowing a big lead, but it is what it is, man. Unfortunately, I still liked this West Virginia team. I think they had a great fight to them. Like I said, they could have bowed down there late, and they battled back to, still have a shot there at the very last second. So I think this team has been resilient if they've been nothing else throughout the season. But unfortunately, alongside with that resiliency, we've seen a super lack of consistency with this team within games and then in general throughout the season. And it was the same case of other times. I think a lot of times throughout the season, West Virginia looked like a really good team, even better than opponents they lost to. I'm not saying necessarily a better team than Maryland for sure, but in my mind, a lot of the game they looked like it, but just couldn't find a way to win. And unfortunately, that's kind of the story of this team. Kenny says Bob Huggins had it right. They called it where WVU couldn't get in their game. Is that what he said? I haven't got a chance to listen to his post-game thoughts yet. Like I said, I kind of just want to have an instant reaction, hop on here as soon as the game ended, talk with you guys, get your all's thoughts about it. And, I wanted to wait and hear Bob Huggins' thoughts and dive in on the stats more for the podcast that I'll be releasing in the next few days. But certainly I think the officiating was very tight in this. Early in the first half, it seemed like it wasn't as tight, but then it seemed like they made it point to really call, I don't want to say ticky-tack stuff, but a lot of stuff that they weren't calling early in the first half. They kind of the refs wanted to change it. I don't know if they just wanted to dictate the pace of the game or set a tone, whatever you want to call it. But I definitely think they called it really tight, and it did hurt West Virginia a lot. I think that one thing I will say, I'm not one to complain about the refs. I'm not going to say that made a difference in this game or anything, but just overall throughout the season, I think that Jimmy Bell, I don't know if it's because of his size and stuff, so seems to me he's gotten beat up on a lot throughout this season. And in the same token, then on the other end, sometimes he'll be straight up and down and get called for a foul. And I don't know if it's because his size that it looks like he's fouling someone when he's really not. And then on the offensive end, I don't know if they let more things happen to him because he's a lot bigger than a lot of the guys guarding him. But either way, I think he gets the short end of the stick a lot throughout the season. And a couple calls throughout this game, you could make that argument, especially the one that fouled him out, I think, in my personal opinion. But it was called really tightly, but like I said, I don't think you can blame the game on that. And I don't think Bob Huggins was doing that either. I'm not saying that, but certainly was called a little bit more tighter than would have favored West Virginia. I think if it was called a little bit more loose, it definitely would have helped West Virginia a lot with some of their tenacity they have on the ball defense wise with Keedy Johnson, Joe Toussaint, and things like that. So bad call at the end because it should have been West Virginia ball. It could have made the difference, says Kim Cecil. Yeah, very much so. It could have. Like I said, in a one possession game, any one play you can point to or any one call you can point to that could have been the one. And I think that's very, very good argument there because it certainly was out on the Maryland guy. I will say Young there. Even the announcers agreed, and like I said, the replay official they brought in as well, he agreed that it was out on Maryland too. So, they missed that one, but and West Virginia had that shot at the end. They was, like I said, you can point to any one call and say it made a difference because it's a one possession game, but I don't really like to because, like I said, it came down to the very end and both teams had a chance, but it certainly was a miss there by the replay crew. And that's one thing I mentioned earlier was one thing that was questionable to me in this game was some of the reviews in this one for sure. But at least they had a chance there at the end. I was happy to see them battle back and have one shot there, and it was exciting to watch those final 4 seconds and felt like that ball was in the air forever when Keedy took that last shot, and he had an amazing game, and I would have loved to see him finish with 30 points. And like I said, I believe his home state's Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. So playing in his home state, really had one of the better performances of his career and really played great this season. But yeah, it looked like it was out on the Maryland guy for sure. Eric says, at least we didn't lose to Furman. Oh, did Virginia lose too? Wow. Okay. So I knew it was coming down to the end there. Like I said, last I'd seen, I think it was a 3-point game with like 40 seconds left. So that's interesting. There's one upset right there already in this tournament. So I'm excited to catch more of it. Like I said, won't stay with you guys too much longer, but drop your thoughts in here. One more chance here. Drop your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, anything you got in regards to this game that West Virginia just played against Maryland or throughout the season as a whole, really, as we get close to wrapping it up now. This is the final game. And for us, we'll wrap it up with CRW Hoops episode 15. Like I said, I'll be releasing the episode of that podcast here in the coming days, but did just want to get kind of initial reaction with you guys here, get some of your thoughts and talk with you guys a little bit here before I go watch some more of the tournament, and hopefully you all do as well if this didn't kill your interest, as I know Kenny said it did his. Hopefully it didn't all of you all, but I'm trying to stay into it. Hopefully my bracket is good enough to keep me interested. As I said earlier, probably not, but you never know. Benji Lilly says Jimmy Bell gets beat up when he's on the bench. Yeah, I know Jimmy Bell is always constantly taking a beating in these games throughout the season, and I think he's able to come back next season. Him, Trey Mitchell, and Joe Toussaint. I would love to see all three of them come back. That would be huge, but at least if you can get a couple of them, that would be nice. And certainly, I think Jimmy will come back for West Virginia. I'd be surprised if he did not. And maybe next season, maybe Bob Huggins is able to put a bug in some officials' ear or something this off season, and maybe they'll give Jimmy a little bit of a break next season, because certainly this season, I agree, he got beat up a lot, but then kind of got picked on, it seemed like, when he was on defense. But hated to see him get in foul trouble. I did think that hurt West Virginia in this game. Their defense seemed to be a lot better when he was on the court, evidenced by the start in the first half and the start of the second half. Kenny says later, everyone, my heart just isn't in it. I know, Kenny, man, this is tough. Like I said, this was a tough one for me to even do. Like I said, I'm gonna get out of here before too much longer myself. It's a heartbreaker, man, and I hated to see it. But Kenny, like I said, hopefully brighter days are ahead. I think Bob Huggins maybe kind of figured out this transfer portal thing with this team, and who knows, could build an even better team next season. Got some guys that could potentially come back. We know we got some good guys waiting in Perez and Silverio, so we'll see what happens with that. But definitely, Kenny, I hate it. My heart's broken too, but try and keep your head up, man. Spring football starting, got the spring game coming up, football season around the corner. And then, like I said, who knows what can happen with next year's basketball team. They got back in the tournament this year, and hopefully that's just the tip of the iceberg for what Bob Huggins is able to do if he's figuring out how to do this transfer portal era of basketball. Jared Halton says, I don't do comments normally, but I have to hear. I appreciate you, man, commenting on here in the chat then. I think it's the first time I've seen you in here, but definitely welcome in. If you're a West Virginia fan, be sure and subscribe. All kinds of Mountaineer sports content coming all the time. And in the same token of that, before we get out here, if you guys are in here live, drop a like on the video. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. But I appreciate everyone that's tuned in and chimed in and whether it be live or even if you tune in on a playback and drop a comment. We always appreciate the interaction and getting your all's thoughts here. That's what we're just trying to do here with the CRW community, is just have, a Mountaineer spot where Mountaineer Nation feels like they can come share their own thoughts and just have a dialogue a little bit talking about Mountaineer sports in general. But I appreciate it, Jared. Luke, man, appreciate it. You're always consistently in here, man. And like I said, I've seen you in the CRW Bracket Challenge group. I know several of you guys are in there. Appreciate everyone that joined that. And like I said, the winner of that, I'm going to get in touch with and send you some CRW merch. And who knows, maybe we'll have some prizes for the top or whatever there. But like I said, Luke, hopefully you're still interested in the tournament as well. Like I said, I know West Virginia losing kind of kills some people's interest, but appreciate you always be consistent, man. I know you're always going to be in here, so appreciate that and hope for a better football season indeed, man. Got it kicking off with the spring. I'll have plenty of videos out about it. We'll have plenty of live streams, one each week while spring football is going on. And then, of course, a post-game reaction for the spring game coming up there at the end of April. But, just a few days away. I think it's about a week now, actually, from the start of spring football practice. So we'll have plenty to talk about here, Luke, moving forward, and plenty of times to chat. So I appreciate you, man. Have a good rest of the day. Hopefully some of these tournament games are interesting for you, and I hope your bracket does well. Jared Houghton says, I don't do comment normally, but I have to hear Trey Mitchell was soft with the ball on D. It makes me sick, and I hate to say it, but Huggins got out coached. I'm not going to disagree on both of those points really overall, I think. But Trey Mitchell did do some good things in this game as well. And throughout this season, he really had some bright spots. But I think his issue has been, something I talked about earlier with the team in general, just the lack of consistency. But like I said, he's able to come back next season. So hopefully he does. I think another year with Huggins and stuff, he could get a lot better and could be more consistent next season as well. But I think Trey Mitchell, seems like to me just more of a role player than, a star player, even though at times he looked like a star throughout this season. But I guess, that's always subject to change. As far as Huggins getting out coached, I guess with Maryland coming away with the win, you can certainly make that argument. But I thought it was a great chess match back and forth between both coaches. But I didn't think Huggins did a bad job of coaching. Like I said, there's certainly some things you can look at to make that argument. To me, the one that stands out personally that I mentioned earlier was I would love to see Eric Stevenson play more in the second half. I don't know exactly what the situation was there, but, like I said, with Maryland getting the win, you certainly can make that argument. Jim, I appreciate you chiming in there with it, but I don't think Huggins did a bad job of coaching is just the main thing I want to say there. But certainly you can make the argument that he got out coached down the stretch there. But appreciate you chiming in there and everyone that has here live. Like I said, if you're in here, drop a like before you head out. And if you're watching this on the playback, do that for us as well. And if you are tuned in on a playback, couldn't catch this live, I understand. Almost didn't want to do it because such a heartbreaker for the Mountaineers in the 2023 season, with 19 wins overall. Unfortunately, we were hoping to see them make a little bit of a run here in the NCAA tournament. They come up just shy in the opening game, losing to Maryland 67-65. Kedrian Johnson, the star for the Mountaineers in this one, 27 points and nearly had 30 with an almost game winner there. Just a hair off to the side there. It was online, looked like, but unfortunately wasn't able to hit that one for his 30th point, and West Virginia's season ends in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. But as I said earlier, just super excited to see the Mountaineers back in March overall and see them on the bracket, get to fill them in. Didn't turn out the way I wanted there with the win, as I'm sure most of us predicted, but Maryland, and West Virginia just evenly matched teams, and down the stretch, Maryland had a little bit more firepower than the Mountaineers, unfortunately. But like I said, I'll be back to talk about it more on episode 15 of the CRW Hoops podcast, where we'll dive into the statistics more, whereas this was just kind of an instant reaction, just kind of sharing my thoughts and hearing your all's thoughts here. And appreciate you guys here having this dialogue with us here on the Country Roads webcast, always on this live stream. Like I said, look for more here in the near future with spring football kicking off. Also going to have a football podcast dropping here in the next week or so as well, with spring football commencing. So plenty of Mountaineer sports content ahead, even though the basketball season is now officially wrapping up. That just means we're gearing up to switch gears to football a little bit more and focus on it here in the next few weeks on the Country Roads webcast. But before we do, hope you tuned into this live. If not, I hope you checked out the playback. And if not, then at least definitely check out episode 15 of the CRW Hoops podcast in the next few days, where we talk about this game more in depth statistically, as well as discuss West Virginia's 2022-2023 season overall as a whole. Like I said, unfortunately, the consistency just wasn't there for this team a lot this season, and that showed in this game where they got on big runs but then gave up big runs and ultimately not able to secure the win at the end there. Heartbreaking loss. I hate it, for myself and for all of you all throughout Mountaineer Nation. But like I said, hopefully brighter days are ahead. We'll switch gears, get ready to talk about some Mountaineer football in the coming future, as well as Bob Huggins building next year's basketball team throughout the offseason. And I hope you guys continue to tune in here for some more of this Mountaineer sports content from us at the Country Roads webcast. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.